You control nothing. And that terrifies you. When did that fear start? You think you're protecting yourself. Every contingency planned, every risk calculated, every possible failure mapped out in your mind before you even begin. You call it preparation. You call it being responsible. But here's what you don't see. That need to control everything is the very thing stealing your peace. And it's so deeply wired into how you operate that you can't even feel it happening anymore. Marcus Aurelius Severus used to say something that made people uncomfortable. He'd look at the most driven, most successful people in Rome and tell them, "Your strength has become your cage." They'd bristle at that. These were people who built empires through sheer force of will. And he's telling them they're trapped? But he wasn't wrong. You already know the exhaustion I'm talking about. That mental fatigue that has nothing to do with how much you slept. The constant background hum of anxiety about everything that could go wrong. You think that vigilance is what keeps you safe. You think if you just think hard enough, plan well enough, control tightly enough, you'll finally feel secure. You won't, because here's what's actually happening. Every time you try to control something outside your direct power, you're training yourself to feel unsafe. Every time you obsess over how someone will respond, what the market will do, whether your plan will work out exactly as designed, you're reinforcing a neural pathway that says, I'm only okay if this external thing goes my way. And the world doesn't work that way. The problem isn't that you care. The problem isn't even that you plan. The problem is you've tied your inner stability to outcomes you cannot control. And every time reality reminds you of that fact, you double down. More control, tighter grip, better systems. You're trying to solve an internal problem with external solutions. You're building walls when what you actually need is a foundation that holds steady regardless of what's happening around you. By the end of this, you'll know exactly why your need for control is the source of your suffering, and what the Stoics discovered about breaking free from it without becoming passive or careless. Let me tell you about Dominic Kane. Dominic was the kind of man who intimidated rooms without trying. That jawline, that intensity in his eyes, everything about him communicated control. Military background, built a successful security consulting firm. Every detail of his life optimized, scheduled, executed with precision. He came to study Stoicism because he thought it would make him even more disciplined, even more in control. Marcus Aurelius Severus saw through that immediately. They're sitting in the old philosopher's study, and Dominic is explaining his morning routine. Wake at 05:00. Cold shower. Meditation for exactly 12 minutes. Workout. No deviation. Ever. He's proud of this. This is proof of his mastery. Marcus listens, then asks a simple question. What are you afraid will happen if you sleep until 6? Dominic's jaw tightens. Nothing would happen. That's not the point. The point is discipline. No, Marcus says quietly. The point is fear. You're not disciplined. You're terrified of who you'd become without these rules holding you together. Dominic wants to argue, but something in those silver gray eyes stops him, because it's true, and he's never let himself see it. Marcus continues. You control your mornings so you don't have to feel out of control. You optimize your business so you don't have to sit with uncertainty. You plan every conversation so you don't have to risk being misunderstood. But you're not free, Dominic. You're exhausted. And you think the solution is even more control. Dominic sits with that. Days pass. He can't stop thinking about it. Then something breaks his perfect system. A client cancels, not a disaster, just unexpected. And Dominic notices his reaction. His heart rate spikes. His mind immediately spins up 15 different scenarios. What did he miss? What should he have done differently? How can he prevent this from ever happening again? He's sitting there, chest tight, mind race, and he finally sees it. The thing he's been running from his entire adult life. He's afraid that without constant control, he'll fall apart. That underneath all these systems and disciplines and perfect execution, he's just chaos waiting to happen. So he grips tighter, plans more, controls harder, and he's been exhausted for years. This is what Marcus knew. This is what the Stoics understood that most people miss. The need to control external things isn't strength. It's a desperate attempt to avoid feeling powerless. But the truth is, you already are powerless over most of what happens to you. The client cancels or doesn't. The person responds or doesn't. The plan works or doesn't. You were never in control of those things. You never will be. And pretending otherwise only deepens the exhaustion. The only thing you ever controlled was how you meet what happens. Dominic started practicing something different, not letting go of standards, but letting go of his grip on outcomes. He still prepared, still showed up with excellence. But when things didn't go according to plan, instead of immediately trying to fix it, control, prevent it from ever happening again, he'd pause. He'd notice the fear rising, notice the urge to grip tighter. And he'd ask himself Marcus's question, what am I actually in control of right now? Not the client's decision, not the market's response, not how people perceive him, just his own reasoned choice about what to do next. That's it. And something strange happened. As he loosened his grip on things outside his control, he actually became more effective because he wasn't wasting energy on anxiety about outcomes. He wasn't exhausting himself trying to puppet master reality. He was just present, responsive, clear. The peace you're looking for isn't on the other side of finally controlling everything. That destination doesn't exist. The peace is in seeing clearly what you actually control and releasing everything else. Not abandoning responsibility, but directing your energy toward what actually matters. Here's what you do. Next time you feel that grip of anxiety, that need to control, pause and ask one question. Is this within my control right now? If it's not, your only job is to return to what is. Your effort, your integrity, your response. Nothing more. This is where most people stop. Don't be most people.